Let's get into it. Soul Not For Sale podcast. I have the wife with me.
Hello.
And we are talking about Native American tribes and the people that they kidnap that actually don't want to go back. Don't want to go back to regular society, regular life. And I love this concept. There's so many different roads that we're going to go down. But who was it in particular that Joe mentioned?
Cynthia Ann Parker.
Yes. Comanche?
Yeah.
Comanche. The woman who became Comanche. But that's where we started. And then all of a sudden, we figured out there was way more people who had this very similar story. So we're going to be jumping into a few of those. And I think these are amazing. I'm buying a book, I'm telling you. I'm sold. I read a couple of these stories and I'm like, oh my God, I need this. Don't forget about IamCoachColin.com. We have Soul Not For Sale. We got different versions of that. We got Public Enemy #1. We got mainstream news, brainwashing citizens. Discount code is IamCoachColin. Go ahead and check it out. All capital letters, all one word, 1 L in the name Colin. Let's get into this first clip.
They ranch for other people or just themselves, most of them?
It totally depends on the rancher, right? There's some ranchers that what they do is they lease land, and so like they'll roam their cattle, and then some of them they put them on public land. Like I was hunting in Nevada on public land with my friend Steve Ranella. We were bow hunting mule deer. So we're in this area, and there's cows all over this area. Yeah. And these cows are all privately owned, and so they pay a grazing fee, I guess. I don't know what the fee is. I don't know how that works. I don't even know if they have to pay a fee. I don't know how that works. But the point is, they have the rights to let their animals graze in a specific area, and then when it comes time to harvest them or whatever the fuck they do, they round them all up, and the cowboys come in there. So like real cowboys, guys on horses. Yeah. It's fucking cool to watch. But that's, so like, they're all over the place. So there's those kind of ranchers. And then there's ranchers that have a contained ranch. So there's a lot of these out here in Texas. Yeah. Or like the guys at White Oaks Pastures, where they have a fully contained, managed ecosystem. And they have their cows out there. They will roam around. They use the manure. They use the manure for fertilizer. They recycle everything. It all goes back into nature, including the dead bodies of the animals and the things that get harvested, the organs, everything. Everything gets used.
So I think, I know, I always go, but you can't go back. When did it change, and why did it change?
It changed with money.
No, but I'm saying, like, say me and you, we're sitting there, and you got your little tribe there, and I got my tribe there, and you're like, hey, man, you go hunting, you come back, and I'll make sure she'll get the steak, whatever. Everyone's helping each other out. You hunt, you gather, and all that. When did... That's what always fascinates me.
You gotta even that time. Like, and then we're romanticizing that time.
I am romanticizing,
but
I don't know.
Was one of the most fucking brutal times. You
Opposed
ever watch
to
that
now?
show? Yes. You ever watch that show, 1883?
Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Taylor Sheridan's show.
Up the ass.
Oh my God, they killed everybody. They killed everybody.
Muammar
Everybody
Gaddafi.
died. Yeah, up the ass. But those people that were trying to make their way across the country, that's
brutal.
it. That's the knife up the ass.
What's more brutal?
You should see the video.
This is. What is more brutal?
Oh, they did that. Dude, they did that times 100.
We've been
right
brutal
here.
forever.
Forever. Human beings have been brutal forever. Forever.
We just don't eat we don't chimp it out, though.
We don't yet.
We don't go for the testes. We don't eat those. But you know, there might be some sickos out there.
If the meteor hits, and we go back again, because we've done it before. I guarantee we've done it before. I guarantee you, at least in parts of the world, society's crumbled because of natural disasters and people resorted to barbarism. And I think that's the reason why, if you go further back in history, people were the most ruthless. You know, if people really did exist in a very sophisticated way, which is what I believe, that it did exist somewhere around 11,800 years ago, and then before that. That's what I think. I think particularly in Africa. I think if you look at the structures that exist in Egypt, there's no doubt about it. Some of those are old as fuck, and I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that they're older than they think they are, especially when you have geologists that are observing these deep water fissures, like Robert Schoch, who's done this work on thousands of years of rainfall, must have created this, which is that pushes it back way to the point where there used to be rain in that area, which was like 9,000 years ago. So now we're in this area. Like, well, how old are these fucking things, man? And I think if something happens and the world falls apart, I think only the monsters live. Only the monsters. Only the most psycho of psychos. Only the most evil dog-eat-dog people, because they're probably cannibalizing. At a certain point in time, I bet people are cannibalizing. At a certain point of starvation, a certain point, if there's like a nuclear winter, if like when those things impact and the fucking sky is covered with volcanic dust for, for 2 years and nothing grows.
You ain't got no guns and nothing.
Bro, I guarantee people start eating people. I guarantee we are the ancestors of people who ate people. I think so.
I would buy that.
Dude, the Comanche did it. Well, the Comanche didn't do it as much as some of the other Indians did it, but they would eat each other. They would eat their enemies. They would kill their enemy and eat his heart. They would do wild shit right here, the Nez Perce.
Yeah.
They would catch people and cook them and eat them in front of their friends.
Oh.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean,
They did wild shit.
Yeah.
And they did it for fun. They did it to torture people.
Oh.
They would torture people. That's why Native Americans had no concept of surrender. Like, surrender, they're going to torture you and kill you 100%. You got to fight to the death.
Yeah,
you
but
can't
don't
surrender.
Would you, I think about this too, like, would you, if you knew your entire existence was going to come to, if you felt like, you know what, these guys we've seen, they've crushed it everywhere. There's no winning this. We fight to die or we become them. What are we doing? That's it. I always think about that with certain societies, even ours. We've never ever, well, I can't say that, but have we come a time where you're willing to go, dude, we're not getting out of this one. We're not getting out of this one. So in the meantime, do we start taking out as, doing as much as we can? Like, how do you, I could see that.
Think about what the Native Americans went through in this country.
That's what I'm saying.
And their plight was even more dire because we removed their food. We removed the food. We killed the buffalo.
Right.
So there was no independence anymore. They couldn't exist out there by themselves.
Making them sick.
Yeah, make them sick.
And
make them starve.
Food. Yes.
And then when the winter comes, you got no food. What the fuck are you going to do? And they offer you the reservation. They did that. They did that in this country. So there's your answer.
Yeah.
And the way they treated those people is beyond evil. The way they converted them in those schools, and that's also detailed in 1923, that show.
I went to St. Augustine, and there's this fort down there. And as I'm walking through the fort, people, tourists just always walk by and look at all the pictures and the things, like, oh, this fort's cool looking. And on the wall is all these little Native American, little Indian kids, just like traumatized, but in school outfits. And you see, like, the soldiers behind them. And I sat there and watched it and went, bro, can you imagine how many kids you got?
3.
Can you imagine seeing your children like completely indifferent, completely hostages for the rest of their life? And they watched their parents get taken out in front, like they watched their mom's throat get slit or raping or burning them while they're alive. And now they're going to, dude, can you imagine? Like seeing that or living that as a child, and now that's what's going to control you the rest of your life? That's heavy, man.
And it was also heavy what the government did when they took gullible people and they gave them land where the Comanche were. They let them move in. That's S.C. Gwen's book, The Empire of the Summer Moon. They just let these people build these homesteads, and then one day the Comanche came and just slaughtered everybody. And they kidnapped people. The last Comanche chief was Quanah Parker, and his mother was Cynthia Ann Parker, and his mother was kidnapped. She was 7 years old by the Comanche, and she wound up marrying the Comanche chief, and she had a son. That was Quanah Parker, and he was the last Comanche chief. And then they rescued her when she was in her 30s,
right?
And she kept trying to escape, go back to the Comanche. She had become a Comanche, like a full-on Comanche.
I just saw that. Did you talk about this recently?
I've talked about it many times. I can't stop talking about it. Because that's where we are. That's this spot where we're at right now. If you drive like 10 minutes from here, you'll find like Quanah Parker Road. Yeah, they named the streets after Comanches up here. I have a friend who has a ranch up here. He finds thousands of arrowheads, and I'm not exaggerating. It's nuts how many he finds. He documents them all. Go to J.M. Whitworth's Instagram. It's fucking wild, dude. This guy finds thousands of them. He just sifts through the ground in his property. This is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of the Comanche riding horses, killing deer, living off the land, living right here.
I saw a meme, and it was like it was a native, and he said, "We breathe the fresh air. We live in the nature. Our food is grown. We have everything at our resources, free water. We love each other. We constantly are, tearing it up all day." They came along and thought they can do something better.
Look at this guy's page. He finds
to that.
That's one of the ones that he found. Did you find his Instagram, Jamie?
Private.
Wow, look at that.
You didn't find it?
It's private.
It's private. So these are just some of the ones that he's posted up. He sent me some. I have one right here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's legit. Good dude.
So when they do that, what do they make? What do they make that out of?
Different kinds of rock that they can chip, depending on the place. Some points are like obsidian. Some points are different kinds of stone, flint, whatever they can shape into a point like this. There's amazing craftsmanship involved in this too, and you got to get it kind of in the same size every time. Because the whole idea is you're judging, just like when you throw a rock. Like the way they would shoot arrows is, you know how you throw a rock.
All right, he's about to get some archery talk. And that's also pretty cool, but not as cool as what we're about to talk about. What
Yeah,
we're
it's
about to
crazy.
springboard into. So yeah, I guess we'll start with Cynthia Ann Parker, and then we'll just go into these other names,
Yeah.
and then we'll go into that article that we found. That one is really cool. That's changed my outlook on things.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm so, you already know, like when we're reading, I'm always reading self-improvement stuff. It's always things that could be applied in the real world, habit formation, and you're into like adventures and things like that.
Yeah.
And now I want to read, like it was real, but it was like adventures.
Yeah.
Reading this stuff, it was
So it's like somewhere in the middle.
yeah, like every story could be a movie easily.
Yeah.
Easily. It's so crazy. Wow. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah.
And then also we'll touch on some stuff that Jim Brewer was trying to talk about, but Joe wasn't really. I don't know. Maybe he's just a bigger personality. Maybe Jim's just kind of like, I'm just happy to be here.
Maybe.
Because he's like trying to talk about then versus now. He's trying to talk about how good of a life the people had back then, like the tribes.
Yeah.
You know, aside from the violence, just the things that they would do on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
And how much better that is for the human soul. But Joe is just like, you know how bad it was. And it was. It definitely was. But I think like that little bit of bad and everything that you would do on a daily basis if you were in a tribe, that's all you're supposed to go through that.
And it was
bit of
only,
pressure.
well, I guess it was bad before, but it got really bad because of the European settlers.
Yeah, that probably added a layer
Yeah.
that nobody saw coming.
Yeah.
And funny enough, as Joe was talking, not even they saw it coming. Because he was just talking about how some gullible people were just given land.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden Comanches are coming up. They're like, hold on. I thought this was taken care
Yeah.
of.
And that's what happened with Cynthia Ann Parker and her family, actually.
Yeah.
So they went to go build a homestead on basically Comanche land. So it was like the outskirts of a settled area.
So crazy.
So they built one of those like big encampments with like logs all around the outside. Like, I don't know if you ever watched like Disney's Pocahontas,
No.
but they put that up right away with like huge walls of like trees that are all
Okay.
like put together so that nobody can get over, like it's protected. And then what ended up happening is because they were on Comanche land, there was a raid of a Comanche party. So they came in, and the issue was somebody had left the gate open while they were out
Oh, no.
gathering food.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't close the gate behind them. So the Comanches were able to just go right in, and they would have been
Jeez.
protected if not.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So the Comanches, typically they will take children and make them part of their tribe. They don't do that with adults of any sort.
Really?
Yeah, only the children.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Every story I was hearing, it was a child.
Yeah.
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 And then if they grow to adulthood and then they decide to go back, then they're still welcome. But other than that,
Yeah,
yeah, it's always children.
exactly.
Oh, I
So
didn't realize.
Cynthia Ann Parker was taken along with her brother, John Richard Parker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll tell the story of both those people. So Cynthia Ann was, like Joe was talking about, she ended up, I think it was like, she was like 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Accounts vary, like anywhere between 7 to 9 years old
Yeah.
was when she was taken. And her little brother was around 6.
Is this her? This one that I pulled up?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And she was given a new name, which is Naura, which means found one, or was found.
Wow.
Yeah. So she grew up with this tribe and ended up marrying the chief.
He became chief or he was chief already?
He became chief.
Wow.
It doesn't say when she got married, like what age, but whatever.
Yeah. I'm sure it was early.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
it was too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but she ended up having a bunch of kids with him, like integrated into the life. And then she ended up being rescued, quote unquote, at the
Yeah.
age of 33 after she had had like 4 kids.
33.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they're still looking for them after all that time to bring them back.
Yeah, I think maybe they like heard something about like a white woman And they thought she was being held captive.
Yeah, they assume the worst. Like,
Yeah.
you're still holding her captive, you're torturing her, they're savages, all these things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So her and her infant daughter were taken away from the tribe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
And then she goes back.
Well, no, she never even got the chance.
Really?
So she was taken away and rejoined the European settlers.
And then what?
She really wanted to go back. And I think her daughter ended up passing away, which is really sad.
Wow.
The daughter that was kidnapped with her.
Mm-hmm.
But she escaped at least once, but was captured and brought back.
Isn't that odd?
They just kept bringing her back.
I wonder why.
And then she ended up passing away at 43.
Wow. Well, I wonder why they would bring, like, if they're running away, just kind of let them go, I guess.
Yeah. Like, she's an adult woman.
Yeah, at that point.
Especially, like, if she has, like, a child. Like, I don't know.
And she couldn't, I guess she couldn't explain, like, I have a life. Like, I got to go back to my life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like any of you guys.
Yeah. And they were saying at one point she had, like, I guess one of the Comanche customs is if you're grieving, like, to cut off all your hair and you, like, slash your body, like, you bleed.
Really?
So she, like, was doing that.
Oh, they thought she was crazy.
Maybe. But yeah,
For sure,
sad,
right?
Sad story.
Wow. Cynthia Ann. And then her son went on to be the last.
The last Comanche chief, yeah. So that was Quanah Parker, who Joe was talking about. So he was half Comanche and half European.
Yeah.
And yeah, he ended up, I don't know how I feel about him, because he was the last Comanche chief, and he kind of took on this role that had never existed before, and he unified all of the Comanche tribes.
Okay.
Which is really cool. And for years he led like war parties against colonialist expansion into Texas.
Okay.
But then eventually I think he thought that it was not worth the risk, because all of these people had guns. So the Comanche tribes were not doing well in these conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
So he led his people onto the reservations and said, we're going to stay here now.
Oh, yeah. That's not good.
Yeah. Like, I kind of get where he's coming from. Like, there was a lot of people passing away.
Yeah, right. You don't want your tribe to completely disappear.
Yes.
Especially if you're the one that's unifying them and all that. Mm-hmm. And then it's like...
So I'm sure it was like a really hard decision.
Do we fight to the death completely, or do we just stay in these places?
Yeah.
Man.
It's hard.
That is hard. See, if I had to make a movie about this guy, I would spice it up, and I would make it so he does that, but it's like a Trojan horse. And then he just, and because he looks white enough, who could we make him in the movie? Orlando Bloom. Perfect. Just white enough.
That's so funny.
Could look native if he went and tanned a little bit.
There was some like, I think it was like a show or a movie where Johnny Depp played a native chief.
For sure. I could see that. He would do that so well. He would do that so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, if I was making a movie, I would make that a Trojan horse. I would make his mom still alive, and that was the last stand. See, if I was like Tarantino, Tarantino just makes wacky, crazy worlds. That'd be the last stand, was to go and get his mother back, and they win.
He ended up actually getting his mother back after her passing.
Oh, the body.
He went and
Wow.
He made sure that all of their family could be together.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Cynthia Ann Parker, real Comanche. Wow. Well, you know what? The only reason I assume that she went back is because so many people in these stories end up going back.
Yeah. Well, she wanted to.
Like there was, I guess let's just go through your timeline of things. What else do you have here that I should be pulling up?
I don't know. Some of the links aren't working for some reason. They just like popped up paywalls.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which one?
This is Quanah Parker. If you want to scroll down, there's a picture of him. This is the last Comanche chief.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's him?
Yeah. He doesn't really look half.
No. Right?
Yeah.
He looks full.
And he only added the last name Parker later in his life. Like that's not what he was born as.
So like as they entered the reservation, I guess.
Probably when he had to assume a last name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because at least he knew his mom and everything.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Wow. Born 1880, died February 23rd, 1911.
Yeah. He even met with Theodore Roosevelt.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Man, some of these stories, some of these guys, what they actually did is just incredible.
Yeah, right?
Wow. Nuts. But honestly, as I read into these stories, I'm not going to say like this is the worst one, but there are so many others that are just as crazy.
Yeah.
Just as crazy. But what else do we have for this? You have
well, there's her brother who had a really interesting story, John Richard Parker.
Oh yeah,
Cynthia Ann's little brother. They were taken together from their family.
And he didn't get well, I'll let you tell it.
He was 6 when he was taken and lived with the Comanche for, I think it said like 8 years or so.
Okay.
And then was negotiated to be sent back. So the Europeans and the Comanche made an agreement based on something that they would send back some of the children that they had taken.
Okay.
So he was one of them who got sent back. And he absolutely hated it. He thought he was Comanche. He didn't really speak English anymore because he was so young when he was taken. So he ran away. He ran away from the Europeans to rejoin the Comanches and ended up becoming a Comanche warrior. So he would join them on raiding parties when they would go out.
Yeah.
And quite often they would cross the border and go to Mexico and raid. So
really?
So he went with them to one of these Mexican raiding parties. And they raided this village and took a bunch of captives. And then as they were crossing the border back in through what's now like Texas, he got smallpox. He was very sick.
Whoa.
And the rest of his group were terrified because they had seen it take down a lot of people and like tribes as a whole. So they left him behind with one of the captives that they got from Mexico to look after him.
What?
Yeah. So the girl he left, they were left together, ended up nursing him back to health, and they fell in love.
Whoa.
So he ended up marrying that girl, and he took her back to her family.
He took her?
Yeah, he took her back to her family in Mexico.
Oh, back to her family.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, how nice is that?
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a nice guy.
See, yeah, this has all the makings of a great movie.
Yeah, right?
You got him over there as the last chief. You just make all these things like happen at the same time. She's still alive, captive, the mother. He's in the reservations. He's now nursed back to health. He's like Jon Snow coming back to just reclaim the throne. He's like, now I'm going to be chief. Screw my brother.
Yeah.
My brother gave them back to reservations and everything. He's like, screw this.
Yeah.
And he goes in and just raids everything.
Yeah. And then later on, so he was living in Mexico with his new wife.
Yeah.
He came back to the States during the Civil War and served in the army and fought in the Civil War.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
This is a very interesting family.
Yeah, weird, eh?
No wonder there's names of them in Texas.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Parkers.
What a family.
Yep. He had a ranch in Mexico, so after he fought in the war, he survived, he lived. Can you imagine? That'd probably be such like an amazing soldier. Given his background.
Yeah.
Like that would be terrifying.
Yeah.
Knowing you're coming up with a boy who willingly returned to become a Comanche warrior.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And now he's a soldier.
Yeah, that's scary.
Oh.
So he went back to Mexico after the war and just lived on his ranch. And then he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a man.
Yeah.
Survived that war too.
Yeah.
That's not an easy feat.
Nope. Especially because he was on the losing team.
True. True. Wow. Wow. I love that family. See, that right there, they have all the makings of, like, how come somebody hasn't made them into like a Game of Thrones type of show?
From what I've seen, they're like very well known in Texas.
Of course.
It's like just like the lore.
That's like, what? How is that not a Game of Thrones type?
Yeah, it's
that
crazy.
just around that family, it could be the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know there was various Comanche tribes. I thought it was all one tribe.
No.
Wow. Whew. I love this.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a good one,
I'm
eh?
gonna be reading about this stuff so much more now. Really, I am, because just reading these 10 stories alone.
Yeah.
You know me, I don't sit and read. I was just like silent for like the last 30 minutes. I was
True.
just like reading this stuff. It's so good.
And I wanted to bring up too, Joe mentioned that the Comanches were cannibals.
Oh, yes. Yes. That's right.
Yeah. They did a lot of horrible things from what I've read, but they didn't do that.
Really?
Yeah.
They didn't eat people.
No.
Hmm.
No. They treated their prisoners very badly
Of course.
and disfigured some people.
Yeah. Scalping and all that, I'm sure.
Yep. Some nasty things, but yeah, they didn't do that.
True.
I don't know if he's thinking of like a different tribe or something, but I couldn't find any evidence that the Comanches did.
People, especially when they're not around to kind of defend themselves anymore in that way of life, people will just say whatever.
Yeah.
Especially when they're doing X, Y, Z, A, B, C. You're just going to throw
Yes.
D, F, and
Yeah.
H and everything in there. Like, why
Yes.
not? Like, who's not going to believe it? Especially if it's like, yeah, we roasted people.
Yes. That's what I was thinking. Like when they're going to that point,
Yeah.
then in your head automatically you're going to think, oh, so they ate them too.
And
But they didn't.
That was probably the fear tactic, too.
Yeah.
Like, we're roasting your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like you have like an elk and you're like, hey, look. Yeah. And their captives are like, oh my God.
Yeah. Do you want to pull up the story I had about, who was it? Theodore Babb.
Which one?
It was.
Oh, let me actually pull it up. Sorry. I don't actually. And I just closed that. Sorry.
So we have a couple other stories of people who.
Theodore Babb.
Yeah.
Herman Lehman. I believe that's how you pronounce it.
I think it's Lehman.
Lehman.
Yeah.
And then Adolf Korn.
Yeah.
All badasses in my opinion. Just and then for honorable mentions, like we'll go to that article, but there's one called the Boyd Children, and they're like, it was a family. It's a family of boys
Interesting.
who were like, we're not going back. It's amazing. Is this the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
13-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Okay. Here.
So this is the story of Theodore Babb. So basically what happened with him is he was taken from his home as well, from a raiding group, as well as his sister. And he had tried to escape a couple times from the Comanches, and they didn't like that. So they had beat him, and he didn't want to give them the satisfaction of showing any fear or any pain. So he just sat there and looked them dead in the eye.
Yeah.
Didn't flinch, didn't cry, didn't do anything.
I'm telling you, we get for that movie, he gets older, you give him Jason Statham. That's it. Perfect person.
That's Jason Statham.
Yeah, just looking people dead in the eye.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
What a wild boy.
So the Comanche ended up tying him to a tree and put grass and branches underneath him, like they were intending to burn him. And still he didn't do anything. And his sister was like crying and freaking out, and he was still just like staring them in the eye, like daring them to do it.
Yeah.
And then they ended up recognizing that as bravery.
Yeah, definitely.
So they let him go, trained him to be a warrior, and he fought with them.
That's crazy. So amazing.
Yeah.
Again, I'm telling you, every single one is movie worthy. That alone. You know, he's just looking. They're putting all the stuff down. There's fire going. His sister's screaming. He's just staring at them. And then all of a sudden they just decide not to do it. They're untying him. He's still reactionless. Flashes to like 10 years later. He's just a warrior. He's like, ah!
Yeah. Well, he was actually ransomed back to his father.
Yeah, I know.
So he went back home, but still spoke kindly of the Comanche people. He said when they left, there was a genuine grief when we parted. I loved my Indian brothers and they clung to me, but oh, I wanted my own father and my sisters.
Wow. What a guy.
Yeah.
What a guy. Jeez. And then he said father and his sisters?
Yeah. So he just wanted to go home to his family.
Let me see this here. Let me make sure this story matches up. In the end, he did go home, but he changed. After 6 short months of captivity, he already became a Comanche warrior who had tried it. Yeah, so he did go back home.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see if, like, because we have 2 articles here, different ones. Wow. So cool.
Yeah, crazy, eh?
So cool. That's Theodore.
And then we have...
it sucks that we can't find, like, such a extensive amount of this. Like, their stories.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I would love to hear more of this time. Even though it was a short time, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's wild. It's a lot of stuff.
Who is next?
Do you want to do Herman Lehman?
Yeah. He was a cool one.
Yeah. So Herman Lehman, he actually ended up later in life publishing an autobiography that's called 9 Years Among the Indians. In 1927, he published it.
There he is.
Yeah.
Just looks like a clean cut
He looks
gentleman.
like a professor.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But then when you actually go to this, do they actually have him here? Then that's him also.
Yeah.
You want a man that can do both.
It's amazing.
So good. But yeah, let's go into his story.
So he was taken with his brother while they were like working in the fields at his family's house. So their mother had sent them out to scare the birds away from the wheat. I don't know why they didn't have like a scarecrow or something, but that's how her children ended up getting taken.
Wow.
Could you imagine?
Isn't that wild?
So when he joined, it was the Apache tribe that took him. He was told that his entire family was dealt with.
Yeah.
And they showed him like
Pictures of it.
Well, no, not pictures.
Oh, yeah.
It's snapping on their cell phones.
Yeah.
They just did things to make him believe that that was true, even though it wasn't.
Yeah, they probably showed him like dried
they didn't want
scalps
him
and
to.
stuff like that.
That's exactly what they did.
Yeah. True.
But I was trying not to say that. They didn't want him to escape, basically. So he lived in a village in eastern New Mexico, and he was adopted by a man and his wife. The man's name was like Carnoviste, I think, and his wife was called Laughing Eyes, which is nice. Makes her seem like a nice lady.
Depends why she's laughing,
I guess.
right? Laughing at your enemies.
Yeah. Yeah. And they called him Enda, which means pale boy.
Yeah.
He was there for about 6 years and kind of assimilated into their culture, and he became what they called a petty chief.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was reading the story. Petty chief.
I guess that's like an under chief, like a chief in training.
Like, oh, okay. Maybe
Like a supervisor or something. I don't know.
Supervisor.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was just like chief in training, something next in line, something like that.
So he ended up kind of going with raiding parties against Texas Rangers. And
That's
when they
crazy.
Yeah, when they saw him, they realized that he was a European captive. And they later tried to find him, to liberate him, and he just crawled out through the grass to escape.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he managed to escape.
He's like, well, I'm going with you guys. This must have been, I wonder if it, at what point they faced the Texas Rangers, because there was one point where the Texas Rangers were like, hey, we're cowboys.
Yeah.
And then there was another point where they were like, we're not playing around with these guys anymore.
Yeah.
We're not wearing hats. We're letting our hair down. Like, they started operating completely different. They started encountering the Apache and just getting slaughtered every time till they were like, we have to do exactly what they do.
Yes.
And they became
There's
different.
no mercy.
Oh, yeah. They became wild. They were just like, okay, I'll put this guy had stuff under his eyes. We got stuff under our eyes. Let your hair down, boys. Let's go. Like, it became really wild.
I don't know.
They became very feared.
But later on, there was a medicine man who was like a rival to his adoptive father, Carnoviste. And the medicine man killed his adoptive father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Herman then went and killed the medicine man.
So the medicine man of the tribe.
I don't know if it was of that tribe or of a different tribe,
Okay.
but some kind of medicine man from the Apaches
Okay.
killed his adoptive dad.
Wow.
And in retaliation, he killed the medicine man.
Wow.
And he feared kind of, I don't know, retaliation from the tribe as a whole for killing the medicine man. So he ran away.
Wow.
So he left the Apaches and he lived alone for a year, just using the survival techniques that he had learned and just kind of living in the wilderness.
Wow.
And then eventually he
amazing.
he came across a Comanche camp and he watched them for a day to see like what was going on. And then as soon as night fell, he went into the camp and they captured him, like they were going to get rid of him. But he told them his story, and somebody there had heard of the story of somebody killing the medicine man. So he verified for Herman what the story was. So they adopted him in and he became a Comanche.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that? Because he just drew Apache blood? So they were like, you're cool?
I don't know.
I
don't know. But it's like a white guy dressed up as one of your enemies shows up. Like, you're probably going to want him gone.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
But at the same time, he was probably pale, right? But he's probably getting kind of tanned.
Yeah.
Like even that picture there, he looks like a Florida guy. He's just been out in the sun all the time, you know, just letting it hang, you know, doesn't care about it. So he probably got a little bit tanned, you know, just a little. Yeah, I don't know. But just, of course, still looks white, just in features.
Yeah, true. He actually ended up living with Quanah Parker's family.
Really?
Yeah. Later on.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I didn't even know that connection when I chose that one.
Yeah, it's funny.
Cool. I love this stuff.
Yeah, so he lived with them for about a year, and then he was actually taken back to his mother by the Texas Rangers. So they found him and took him back.
His birth mother?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She was still looking for him.
And at that point, this is 9 years. He was captured as a kid. So how old is he by then? Still a teenager, I assume?
Yeah.
Cool. Because here he doesn't look like, it still seems like he's like embracing that lifestyle.
Yeah.
He's obviously older.
Yeah. He's
right?
like an old man there.
Yeah. I wonder. What a connection.
Yeah, weird, eh?
I think it's amazing.
But the connection is important because he ended up being given land, like all of the Native Americans were, because Quanah Parker verified that he had lived with his family and he was an adopted Comanche.
Wow.
So he was given a ranch by Texas, and he lived out the rest of his life
Just on a ranch.
Yeah.
I've been looking at ranch. Well, I've been showing you. I love the way ranches. I love it. I love it. It's the best.
Yeah.
It seems like the best. Like, you know, you can have a house, a townhouse, you know, however you live, but like compared to like apartments and townhouses and clustered cities, having a ranch where you got like hundreds of acres and then the next person is like very far away, just seems great.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love it. Although I've been thinking about it, there's a certain degree of just having that lifestyle, a certain degree of protection has to come. Because then you do actually have to protect yourself.
Yes.
You
that's
know?
true.
It's a little different. Because I'm thinking like kids and like, how do you have your kids just roam around the ranch? You can't have that.
No.
You know what I mean?
Not until they're at least older, armed.
Yeah. Right?
Just
like,
from the animals alone.
Exactly. So, very interesting. Who else was on the list?
Adolph Korn.
That was a cool story. I don't know if you read that story. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
He's like a monk.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
Adolph
so he
Korn.
was taken when he was 10 years old. And he was sold to a woman in a Comanche tribe who didn't have any children and she wanted one. So she took him in and treated him like her own son. She's a really nice lady from what it looks like.
Yeah, the story was his parents never paid much attention to him.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden he was with this woman and she put all her energy into him.
Yeah.
And he felt more love than he had ever felt before.
Yep.
So he was like, this is actually amazing.
Yeah. So he lived with her for 3 years and then his birth parents managed to get him back. But he never stopped wanting to go back to that lifestyle. So he would like raid neighbors' farms and like steal stuff from people. He was just a bit of a wild boy.
Yeah, why not?
So he built up like a long police record. And his parents were really worried about him. So they moved to some big ranch far away where nobody knows him because they were worried about him like going to jail.
Of course.
And no, he still didn't want to live their lifestyle. So he left and moved into a cave.
Isn't that weird?
That's crazy.
This right here that you had me pull up, this is the book.
Yes.
About him?
Yes. So the book was written apparently by some like far relative of his. Some descendant.
No way. Really?
Yeah. Scott Zesch.
I love that. The true story of an abduction by Indians on the Texas frontier. Is that actually him?
I don't know. I think so.
Because in the article we can't find a picture of him either.
No, I couldn't find very much about him other than just the book.
Yeah. So he just stayed in a cave and like stayed vigil for his brethren that would never come back.
Because he was too far away.
Man.
Sad.
He should have figured it out.
Figured out how to go back?
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of living in a cave for the rest of your life.
Right?
Yeah, true.
It's like either like what a guy, because it's either he's racking up all these charges like robbing neighbors and stuff, or he's with the Comanche. It was Comanche, right?
Yeah.
He's with the Comanche doing the same type of thing, like living off the land, all that stuff, or he's just in a cave by himself.
Yeah. Weird.
Like he has there's no middle ground.
Yeah.
He's like, either I'm gonna be an outlaw or I'm gonna be a Comanche warrior, and if I can't have either of those things, I'm just gonna stay in a cave.
Yeah.
And he stayed there for his whole life. Did you see that as well?
That's what it said.
Research? Yeah. Weird, but I love it. And then what was the honorable mention that I had?
You had the Boyd children.
Yeah. Look at this. Have you read this?
Briefly.
Read that one. Read this one about these boys.
Okay, so it says the 5 Boyd children managed to get away from their captors. After years living with Iroquois and Delaware families, their father brought them back home. Instead of being grateful, though, they bolted into the night. They fled their father's home to get back to the people who had kidnapped them. The children had been taken by Iroquois raiders and dragged out so that they could be sold to other tribes. On their painful road into captivity, they were forced to watch as the warriors beat their pregnant mother for failing to keep up the pace. Her body was left behind. That's nasty. It took 4 years before their father, John Boyd, was able to rescue any of them. The first one he saved was his eldest son, David. The boy wasn't as happy to see his father again as John had hoped. David protested and said he didn't want to leave his Delaware family, and after a short time, snuck out into the night, left his father's farm, and went back to the tribe. Over the next 4 years, his father went from tribe to tribe, buying his children's freedom and bringing them back home, and saw nearly every single one sneak out into the night and leave him to go back to their captors. He freed every single one of his children, but he wasn't able to keep them all at home.
Isn't that crazy?
That's really sad.
Yeah, right? Like
The poor dad.
Every single time he would try and get his kids.
He would get them and like help them, and they
were
just
like-
left him, and he
they're
doesn't
like-
have his wife anymore. Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, it's a wild
Aw.
story. So many of these.
Poor John
There's
Boyd.
so many. It's so crazy. That begs the question, because Jim Brewer was trying to bring up then versus now, and Joe Rogan was like right away. He's just like, no, then it was so wild. We just romanticize. And it's like, people don't really romanticize that time, because what Joe Rogan brought up was 1833 or 1823, that show.
Yeah.
So he's talking about from the European perspective,
Yes.
from the people who got there
Of course.
and how they lived. But you can't romanticize something that most of us have no idea about, which is living in a tribe.
Yeah.
And I wonder, then versus now, towards the tribe, then being in a tribe, and the way we live now, which is better.
True.
And which do you think?
I don't know. Well, if you think about like these boys going there, they were considered men at a very young age, given responsibilities, trained.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the European equivalent of that time would be, but I don't think it would be that.
No.
And I feel like even with children today, they get a lot of fulfillment from being given responsibility.
Definitely.
And even like you're not supposed to give kids iPads. You're supposed to have them do the laundry with you.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes them more fulfilled, just doing tasks
Yeah.
and being responsible.
Yeah.
So I think in that sense, like, it makes a lot of sense why the kids wanted to go back.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I've brought it up before in earlier episodes. Like, I mean, like episode like 30, you know, like way back, because we're like in thousands now. But the fact that everybody was needed in a tribe,
Yeah.
you know, people love to be needed.
Yes.
It's something that helps your spirit and your sense of purpose so much.
Yeah.
Whereas if you feel like you're not needed at all, it just, you know, it's kind of like the reason so many people today kind of hate the jobs that they work. Mm-hmm. Because inside, like, you have your friends and everything at work, but inside, because we've all dealt with it, we've all had the person that we worked with and then they leave and then someone fills the spot and you forget about that person.
Yeah.
You barely even contact them after that, if you do at all, right? We all know that if we leave this job, you know, this tribe, this like temporary tribe that we all get a part of for 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day, we know that our spot will be filled right away.
For sure.
Whereas in the tribe, it will not be.
Yeah.
Like, you'll be mourned. If you left, they would want to know why. They would want to understand. They would be upset with you that you left. They would want you back, you know?
Yeah.
And it would be a while yet before somebody would fill that position, because that position would be filled by birth.
Yes.
Somebody would have to be born and like take that role at some point of whatever your role was. So I think it's just a sense of being needed.
Yeah.
You know?
And belonging.
Yeah. Like I talked about it when I was interviewing Kevin. Like, I've had the affirmation of being a father and a husband that provides, like, provide for my wife and my children. Like, that's something before we even, like, that's what I've wanted for so long. I've been saying that affirmation before we were even married.
Yeah.
Let alone, like, you know, it's like you really want that. You want to be able to provide. You want to be able to contribute. I think is a key word there. You want to feel like you're actually doing something.
Yeah, for sure.
If you have a life like today where you don't really feel like you're contributing, you know, when you're a bank teller, you don't fully feel that way. You know, like, you feel it a little bit, but not really. I just think it's more fulfilling, like you said, with the tasks.
Yeah. And being responsible for things.
Yeah. I really think there's something to that. And I think that's why those people went back. I think a little bit of it was probably some trauma as well. Yeah. Like some, what's it called?
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit of that as well. But also, you kind of, you know what? Perfect example. My buddy Moore, he actually sent me a video of these women who were hostages in Gaza. Or like Hamas, I shouldn't say in Gaza, Hamas, whatever, wherever they keep them. And there was 2 European-looking Israeli women, and they were talking about it, and they weren't talking like as if they were traumatized. They were talking about how one of them gave her a name that like translated to like queen or something like that.
Oh.
And they treated them well, and it just seemed
Weird.
odd the way they weren't upset. They were like, they were very respectful and this and that. And I'm not saying those women want to go back or anything, but it's just sometimes when you get exposed to another way of life,
you see that it's not as bad as you expected.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
true.
You know, like, if right now I got kidnapped by a bunch of ranchers,
you'd be like, yes.
Yeah.
Can we please bring my wife?
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, I don't know. There's some ways of life that are just more simple and more fulfilling at the same time. Oddly, because it's so simple, and then all of a sudden it's so fulfilling. Yeah. You know, we've had that talk when an episode where we were talking about the Amazonian tribes too.
True.
And I think it was Paul Rosalier or something like that. He was on Rogan, and he was talking about how some of the younger people that are from those tribes are like, they have phones and they feel like they're missing out on the world. Yeah. And how we were having the conversation about how they don't even realize like what they have. Yeah. Like how incredible it is that they can just be like, we just go up the stream and we fish here, and this thing heals you and that thing heals you, and we have all this, like.
Yeah. That's like the Amish people too.
Yeah.
Like, they let them do that breaking Amish thing. But then most of them go back.
Really?
Yeah, of course.
Breaking Amish, is this a show?
It is a show, but it's like, I forget what the actual name of it. It's some like German word, I think.
Okay.
Where they're expected to go off into the world to see.
To see what it's like.
To see what it's like. And then when they come back, they're committing to the Amish lifestyle.
So it's like make your choice.
Yeah.
And you can't make a choice without having both sides.
Yeah, you need to be informed.
That's cool. And then most of them go back?
Most of them do.
For sure.
Like, of course, there's going to be a couple that prefer to see new things.
Yeah, of course.
But most of them just want to go back to their family and the life and everything they were doing before.
The only thing I could think with an Amish person is just travel. Like, maybe you want to travel. Like, you figure out there's a whole world. It's like, okay, I want to be somewhere other than just, like, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Like, I want to go to the other continents of the world and see what that's like.
Yeah.
Because that's, like, something that never happens for them. But
that's true.
Otherwise, their way of life is amazing.
Yeah.
Strong guys.
Yeah.
Strong women, too. Like, actually.
Yeah.
Like, they're stronger in general. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. I've had that, too. Growing up around religious Jewish people, there would always be some religious guy who kind of breaks free. He starts dressing normal. He's not wearing his yarmulke and stuff, and he's letting loose. And then a few years later, it's like he's married, kids, and he's like back to the religion.
Yeah.
And with girls too. You see that with girls like crazy, and then they just end up going back. You know?
Yeah, go a little bit wild in their teens and then end up married off with 7 kids.
Yeah. But like they want it. Like a lot of them go back to it because they're all smart enough, and it's, you know, like you can manage in the world. You can get a job and have an apartment, and you can get by easily. You don't have to go back to all that. But a lot of them choose to go back. A lot of them. I don't know many that haven't. I don't know any that haven't. Yeah, no. They stay connected to it in some way. Oh.
Interesting.
Although, you know, I'm making that comparison. They're not Amish people. They look like Amish people.
Yeah.
Growing up, bringing friends around, you know, they're like, you live with Amish people? And I was like, yeah, I do.
I used to get such dirty looks if I would like go for a walk in that area.
Oh, yeah.
Because people just assumed I was
You're wearing
Jewish.
Pants.
Yeah, and I was wearing like leggings or something.
You're wearing pants?
I was getting dirty looks.
You harlot?
Yeah.
With your 2 legs.
Your legs visible.
How dare you be showing your legs and shoulders? Disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. But going back to the whole tribe thing, I think that's a better way of life. I think it's a harder way of life, but I think that harder is better in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we just live 2 solitary lives right now. Like even when like people have kids, they talk about like, oh, like a village raises a child.
Yeah.
But we don't really have that village anymore in that sense.
No, definitely not.
And I think the best thing to do would be to kind of bring that back and make sure you have like a smaller community around you of strong people. But that's hard to do as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, exactly what you're saying. I guess I guess it's not the fact of the technology or anything, although some technology is terrible for us, absolutely terrible for us. But bringing that homestead, because that's kind of what we're talking about, I guess, in a sense.
Like the community.
Yeah, having that community, and then also sprinkling technology around where necessary.
Yeah.
You know?
Like you still have those things, but I think the benefit of living that way is the support system. Yeah.
Again, I guess, the support system, and I guess that goes back to being needed.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Like you're a part of this.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Like I haven't been to church in a while, and I always get messages. They'll be like, yo, I haven't seen you in a while. You know, I'd love to see the wife and you guys. Like, come on. And, I always get that. Yeah. Because they're like trying to bring in. And even, the person that I coach who's become a great friend, like his wife is like messaging you all the time now. And, like hoping that you're okay and this and that. And it's like, yeah, that's a really good thing to have.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So I wonder, then versus now. I feel like that, because that was the question. I think it's now, because you don't have to worry about people breaking in your door and being like, this is our land, and
taking your children.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully.
But you want to have that whole community aspect in life.
Yeah.
Because I really want to farm. but I also really like people.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Because that's what I think. When I look at those 800-acre ranches, when I look at that, I'm like, oh, and then I could build. Like, you could build like 20 houses, and that could be a community there. And there's fishing, because a lot of these ranches we're looking at, there's fishing, there's livestock. Not even livestock. They're like wild. I don't even know what those things were.
I don't know what those were either.
I don't know if they were elk or what, but there's that. So you could have that type of community, you know, that tribe kind of thing, but a modern version of it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what I want. I want that. That'd be great. There was somebody in the comments, I was talking about land and everything, and they're like, sign me up. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that want to go towards that. There's a lot of people who are in the city that are like, I hate this. Like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know my neighbors. I don't know
It's
who
true.
lives next to me or above me or anything. And, you know, people are just looking down when they walk by you, like as if you're not supposed to like make eye contact with people or say hello. It's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
You know?
Because that's supposed to be your community.
Yeah. They're supposed
just
to be your
feels
people.
wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well said. Yeah, definitely. It does feel wrong. So let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sold Not for Sale Ranch.
Perfect. Limited
do it.
spaces remaining.
Yeah, right? 800. That's what I was looking at. That ranch, I was like 800.
Yeah.
800 acres. I was like, you could do some, you can build.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know anything about
True.
anything. I just see land and I'm like, of course you can build houses here.
Yeah.
Maybe you can't. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it all out in time. But let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this whole thing. People going back to the tribe and not wanting to go with the whole, at that time, civilization. You know?
Yeah.
We look at it like it's like terrible, horse and buggy, but that was like the advanced civilization back then.
Yep.
You know? I don't know. I think about it. I think about this a lot. I'm going to read these stories again. I got to look deeper into these stories. I want to get that book right away. That book is called Captured?
I think it's The Captured.
The Captured
Yeah.
by what, Scott Zeshis or something?
Scott Zesh, yeah.
Scott Z if you're looking for it. The Captured. But is that it?
That's it.
All right. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share. Forgot to say it in the beginning again, but that's fine. And let me know what you guys think in the comments. Other than that, we are out.
Bye.